How much money do you need in order to feel comfortable? Now, how much money do you need in order to feel wealthy? According to American surveyed in 2025, in order to feel comfortable, you need about $839,000. In order to feel wealthy, that number jumps to $2.5 million. And age matters. If you're 40 with 2.5, congratulations, you're in the top 5% by your age group. But if you're 60, that 2.5 doesn't even put you in the top 10%. The goalpost just keeps moving. And this number has changed a lot over the decades, and it tells a bigger story about what's happening to the American dream. Let's talk about the numbers. Let's look at what's happening, and let's see what it means for the future. This is Journey to the Bag. What Americans think it takes. According to Charles Schwab 2025 Modern Wealth Survey, Americans believe that it takes $839,000 to be financially comfortable and $2.3 million to be considered wealthy. Let's put that into context. Here's how those numbers have changed over the last 5 years. So in just 4 years, the amount needed to be comfortable has jumped up by $215,000. That's a 34% increase. The amount for wealthy has jumped up $400,000. That's a 21% increase. Now here's where things get wild. If you're 40, according to the Federal Reserve data, 2.5 million puts you in the top 5%. The cutoff for that is 40 to 49 years old, where 2.55 is top 5%. But when you get to 60, that number is expected to jump to 6.8 million. By 60, they expect you to have a lot more going on for yourself. You heard that right. So in order to be in the top 5% at age 60, you're expected to have more than double, $6.8 million. Why the gap? Well, by the time you're 60, you're expected to have assets that have ballooned in value, paid off assets. You're supposed to have maxed out retirement accounts, mature businesses. Your peak should be in your late 60s, so that benchmark just gets higher and higher. If you're at 2.5, that's great. You're just not in that elite category. It's like showing up to the car group in your brand new Mercedes and everybody else got brand new Bentleys. In order to get a clear picture of how things have dramatically changed over the years, we need to go all the way back to what many consider the golden age for the American dream, the 1950s. In the 1950s, the median home price was $7,354. Man. The median income was $2,990. The median home price was 40% of the median income. Think about that ratio. The median home price was 2.5 times the median income. If you look at today, the median home price is $431,000. It's 6 times the median income of $75,000. When adjusted for inflation, that 1950s number of 7,354 translates to 89,300 in 2023's dollars. That's way different from $431,000. What is happening? In the 1950s, the American dream was alive and well. Housing market was booming. What happened? You had government-backed loans that helped 2.4 million veterans get a house after World War II. In 1954, Congress allowed the use for 30-year mortgages in order to purchase a home. The gross national product tripled from $100 billion in 1940 to $310 billion by 1955. The rate of home ownership in the US was 43.6% in the 40s. By the time you hit the 60s, it was up to 62%. That's an 18% jump in 20 years. The American dream during this era was easy to attain. Get a job, buy a house, get married, start a family. I mean, for most, certainly not everybody, especially if you look like me, this was achievable. Let's fast forward to the 70s. This is where things fundamentally changed. There was a wealth gap that started to be created from the 70s to the 2000s. From the 70s to the 2000s, the median household income jumped 49% from $50,000 to $75,000. Everything seemed to be going up until the 2000s, where everything just started crashing down. There was a lot of growth between the 70s and the 2000s, but it wasn't evenly distributed. The top 20% of Americans saw that their share of the wealth grew from 61% in 1990 to 71% by 2022. The top 1% drove that growth. They saw their income or their share of wealth jump from 17% to 26% by 2022. The middle class took a hit though. 60% of Americans that fall in that middle class saw their share of the wealth drop from 37% to 26% during that time. And that brings us to the housing bubble era. From the mid 1990s all the way up to about 2007, everything was booming. Housing prices were doubled, stock prices had tripled. The median household net worth from 1994 was $94,000. It jumped to about $146,000 by 2007. That's a 55% increase. And then the bubble burst, bringing us to the great financial crisis. 2008 recession. The recession hurt some, helped others. A lot of people get rich during recessions, and a lot of people go broke. The median household wealth dropped 36% for everybody that wasn't in the 1%. The 1% only saw an 11% decline, creating that gap, bigger gap between the haves and the have-nots. If you look at what's happened to the share of wealth between 1989 to 2019, the bottom 50% have seen a net zero change in their share of wealth, but the top 1% have seen a positive 300% jump in their share of wealth. Each economic downturn has seemed to create this bigger and bigger gap. More millionaires and billionaires are made, but also other people suffer. The top 1% hold over 30% of the nation's wealth. The bottom 50% only have about 2.5% of the nation's wealth. So what's driving the wealth gap? Well, you have geographic inequalities. 2.5 million in Boise, Idaho looks like generational wealth. 2.5 in Manhattan looks like a nice condo and, a few years of private school. Location matters. Number two, you have asset inflation versus wage stagnation. Everything is going up in price, but your income hasn't changed. You can't afford to keep up with the cost of living. And the fortunate ones who were able to purchase things decades, years ago, have been able to benefit off of their assets increasing in value. And those who do not have not been able to keep up in the race. Debt also plays a role. If you look at one of my older videos, I talked about how the household debt is over $105,000. And the US total household debt is $18 trillion. You don't feel as rich when you owe so much. We also got to look at lifestyle inflation. In the 50s, a square foot home, 983 square feet, that was cool. Amenities like AC, an indoor garage, those were like luxuries. Jump to the day. You gotta have a house that's 2,500 square feet. You gotta have a garage that can fit multiple cars. You gotta have the fastest internet, central AC. All of the amenities that were looked at like a luxury are now basic. We're looking at the death of the American dream, the death of the middle class. I mean, back then, you can get a steady job, often without a college degree. You could buy a house that was 2 to 3 times your annual income and be fine. You'd even have enough to save a percentage of your check, and you could retire with a pension. Nowadays, you gotta have $1 million to be considered comfortable and $2.5 million in order to feel wealthy. So you don't even think about retiring until you get into that million range. It's looking rough out here, and somebody's gonna get left out. What's this mean for the future? We might be looking at a retirement crisis. Remember, if you want to be in that elite category, you want to have $6.8 million to retire off of. 2.5 ain't gonna cut it. Financial experts would suggest that you want to have at least 70 to 80% of your annual income stashed for retirement, so you could have some money to live off of. But how many Americans are on track for that? To break it down a little bit more, if you're making $100,000 before retirement, you want to have $1.7 to $2 million set for retirement. If you're making $150,000, you want to have $2.5 to $3 million set aside for retirement. It seems to get worse as we go from generation to generation. The younger generation, compared to their grandparents, they got higher education costs, so more student loan debt, higher housing costs, just higher cost of living in general, less wage growth, no pension, and less home ownership, if any at all. We're becoming a renter's nation. Once again, here's the uncomfortable truth, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but the goalposts keep moving. So you have to do something in order to keep up with the race. Pay off your debt, save your money, invest your money into something that's going to make you money. You're not going to be able to work your way into that American dream. You're not going to be able to save your way into the American dream. You have to invest your way into whatever number it is that makes you feel comfortable. Like the video, share the video, subscribe, comment what number do you need to be considered comfortable? What number do you want to get in order to be wealthy? As always, the world is yours. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.